What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Dilemma. I'm Jacob Janel. 5 contestants, 5 claims. Every round earns 1 point. The panel votes, and I make the final decision. The panel consists of 5 different perspectives. This show is not about reputation, it's about who can think clearly under pressure. Let's meet them. To start off our panel, we have Nick Powers, a recent college grad pursuing a career in sports media. Nick is a huge Indiana Hoosiers fan. Nick, tell me in one sentence what type of sports fan you are.
I'm going to describe myself as a diehard who holds their team accountable, and I'll be with them in their lowest and in their highest.
Moving on, we have Dalton. Dalton is a law student and is a humongous Tennessee Volunteers fan. Dalton, what kind of sports fan are you?
I'm a diehard fan who's with my team through and through, no matter the stupid decisions or the smart decisions. No matter what, I'm always backing them any way that I can.
Up next, we have my guy Kevin. Kevin is a talk show host for 950 Lounge and is also a huge Tennessee Volunteers fan. Rocky Top in here today. Kevin, what kind of sports fan are you?
I'm a realist because all the teams I root for, a lot of them don't win, but you don't lose your fandom and you never let it go. Fan, go, go.
Moving along, Kendall, my man KGZ, is a college student and a massive Ohio State fan. Kendall, tell us what kind of sports fan you are.
Growing up in Chicago, I'm used to the disappointment of my sports teams, so I'm going to ride for my teams regardless. I'm going to stick with them, no matter how stupid, no matter what, man.
Finally, we have Caleb. He is a construction management specialist and is the biggest Rutgers fan I've ever met. Caleb, what kind of sports fan are you?
I'm a Rutgers purist. I've been more than a decade without a winning season. Followed them since I've grown up. If I'm here now, I'm going to be here forever.
Starting off with claim number 1. Claim number 1 is, given Miami's success, the ACC is not as weak as everyone is making it out to be. If you agree with this claim, you're saying the ACC is actually deserving of the Power Conference title. If you disagree, you see dissimulation coming in the near future. Gentlemen, let's see what you guys have to say. 10 seconds, gentlemen. Go. The panel has voted and everybody disagreed with the claim, so we now activate a forced dilemma where I choose one contestant to agree with the claim, and now he has to argue that side of the argument. That person will be Caleb. The matchup for round 1 is going to be Caleb, who agrees with the claim, against Kendall, who disagrees with the claim. Caleb, you have 30 seconds. Go.
I think you have young coaches in Fran Brown, who's shown to be an elite recruiter. He just got a 5-star up to Syracuse, so wide receiver from Miami. You have Rhett Lashley at SMU. SMU has shown the fact that they have the financial support and backing in order to be competitive in the current NIL market. Franklin at Virginia Tech is someone who can bring back that program. UVA has kind of gotten down to whatever this quarterback transfer market is going to be. There's going to be 5 or 6 teams going forward that as long as they continue to figure it out, they'll be good.
Moving along, we have Kendall. 30 seconds, my guy.
Well, to start, the ACC's quality of games have not been there. No matter what, like the matchups, nobody really pays attention to their games. And when it comes down to it, there's only 1 to 2 premier teams. It's always been Clemson and whoever that team might have been good that year, whether it's Florida State or Miami. There's only been 1 to 2 really good teams out of that conference. And the rivalries just aren't there. And most of the teams are basically bottom feeders. And they just don't add substance, and usually only one team makes it into like a playoff or anything.
Caleb, you gave some solid points on why you think the ACC is going to get stronger from here on out. But do you not think that the budgetary restraints on this conference are going to catch up to them with other teams like Texas and Oklahoma from other conferences shelling out money to players?
So first of all, SMU has shown that they're going to be one of the powerhouses in the Southwest. They have that Dallas oil money. They have a check with endless amount of zeros on it, and they've shown that they've gotten whoever they wanted in last year's portal and this year's portal. Virginia Tech, once they got stirred amongst, we forgot that they have a whole bunch of millionaires in tech that are behind them. They went out and signed most of Penn State, and they didn't do it for cheap. We're talking about 5-star Luke Reynolds. We're talking about Grunkmeyer, most of their offensive line. and they pulled in really quality players. Syracuse has shown that they're not only going to be competitive in both basketball but football as well. They just guaranteed a 5-star wide receiver $2.5 million, and he has yet to step on the field. You have other schools who are starting to come up with real money. North Carolina State was able to re-sign Justin Jolly, who's going to be a 3rd or 4th round tight end again for this year. And they brought back the quarterback Bailey, who every coach in the nation was in his DMs trying to get out. Now they lost Smothers, but you re-sign Justin Jolly, you re-sign Bailey. That's a competitive team. We have shown that there's a myth of the SEC. They had 5 teams in the college football playoff. How many are left? 0.
Interesting, Caleb. We move along to the dilemma round. Kendall, you're up.
Besides 1 to 2 teams, the ACC does not have quality to truly compete with the conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC, and they will only be considered themselves as the little brother in Power 4.
Those were Kendall's thoughts. We now move right along to Caleb. Go, Caleb.
Indiana and Miami are both in the college football playoff championship. Neither of those teams have been competitive for the last 20 years. We don't know what the new NIL looks like until we do.
The dilemma round has concluded. We now turn to the voters to see what they think. The jury has spoken. They voted for Caleb, and I got to agree, man. The ACC is not as bad as everyone is making it out to be. While there is a clear power discrepancy in terms of funding and sometimes players, Miami has single-handedly proven that this conference does have power going forward, and they deserve their title. I'm excited to see in the future what they do going forward with programs like NC State, Clemson, Miami, and the other traditional powers in this group do with NIL budget increases and teams like Miami making the college football playoff.
The ACC is a conference where they beat each other up. They ate their young. So from a standpoint, if you look at now with James Franklin at Virginia Tech, what Brent Key has done at Georgia Tech, the league has gotten better. We mentioned Fran Brown. We mentioned what they're doing at SMU with the money in that group. So I think, again, while we understand the Big Ten and the SEC have the dollars, and sometimes those players that are at the ACC might get poached later on. For what the league does in the seasons, they're good teams, competitive teams, and we obviously see a team playing for a national championship on Monday.
Claim number 2 is that Kalen DeBoer is not the right coach for Alabama. If you agree with this claim, you're saying they need a new head coach and they got to get the dude out of there. If you disagree, you're saying they need to give it a little more time. We will now see what the panel has to say about this one. 10 seconds, everyone. Time. The panel has spoken, and for this round, we have Caleb, who agrees with the claim, going up against Kevin, who disagrees. Caleb, you have 30 seconds to get your point across. Go.
I think everything that Alabama had under the Nick Saban era has kind of been lost quickly. The toughness is gone. The defense has been giving up yards when it's been most important. They had good statistical years. They had good statistical year, but when it came down to it most, the defense just couldn't, stop a nosebleed. The offense, on the other hand, has been decent, but you can't find a consistent run game at all.
Time. Caleb has given his take. We now move along to Kevin to see what he has to say.
Hey, it's never easy replacing a legend, but Kalen DeBoer is a solid coach. A couple years ago, he had Washington in a national championship game. He's 53-15 in FBS football as a head coach. Again, we're living in a whole new era. Alabama just can't stockpile players anymore in the NIL era. So when you think about the situation, Kalen DeBoer is taking what he's got, making guys better, and getting the job done. You got to have more patience, Bama fans. He's your coach for the future.
Time. Kevin has given his take, but I have a question for you, Kevin. You said that Bama fans need to give him more time. How much more time is enough?
You made the playoffs this year, okay? Well, again, you made the playoffs this year, okay? It's not that bad. I understand Bama fans are used to this type of, Nick Saban dominance, but we're living in a new era. We're living in a salary cap. You got to understand it's not the same old Bama anymore. It's not the same old college football anymore. And you got a coach that can get the job done. Stop comparing him to Saban because nobody is.
Interesting take there. We now move right along to the dilemma round, starting with Caleb. You're up.
In the NIL era, you have to reestablish yourself. While Alabama still has some name recognition. Go find the right head coach and reestablish yourself before you become just another name.
That was Caleb's rebuttal. Let's move along to Kevin.
We live in a world where everybody wants to fire a coach as soon as they have one loss. You can't do that. Kellen DeBoer is a phenomenal football mind. Bama fans, you got the right guy.
The dilemma round has concluded, and we heard the takes from both sides. We now move right along to the voting period. Time. The jury has spoken, and I completely agree, gentlemen. Alabama fans are fucking nuts, and they gotta lower their standards just a tad. Kalen DeBoer is a great mind in football, and they need to give him more time before they start seeing results that they are normally used to under Saban.
I think it's completely insane that Alabama fans are possibly ready to move on from DeBoer just because of the fact that he is not Saban. That's the only reason that they're willing to. They haven't come to terms with the fact that they just lost the number one head coach pretty much in all of college football ever. DeBoer has proven himself he's a winner at Washington. He almost damn near won at Washington, but there has been zero fan patience at all. As a fan, your job is to stay with them, like I said actually in the intro, in their lowest and in their highest. And when they're in this little middle tier, they're a lot better than a lot of teams, and they're only a little bit worse than some teams. So it's time to give him some patience. He's a great coach, he's a winner, and he's going to get them to a championship.
Moving along to claim number 3, team success is now determined how much money a team can shell out for a roster. If you agree with this statement, you are saying that the era of NIL is here and that going forward, your traditional powers will be able to shell out the money for the championship squads. If you disagree, you still think that coaching, culture, and other factors still play into team success. The panel has 10 seconds to vote. Time. The votes are in, and we have Kevin, who agrees with the claim, going up against Nick, who disagrees. Kevin, 30 seconds, go.
We're in a world where if you got the money, you got the time. College football and college sports is all about who has what. Now, again, just because you have all the money doesn't mean you have to spend it all. But again, if I control all the money, if I can bring in guys and outsource other teams financially and win those players and get bigger coaching staffs and bring in other consultants, I'm going to win more games and I'm going to win the arm race and be in the playoffs every year.
Time. Kevin gave his take. Nick, you're up.
I think it's very important to note that cash is always going to be king. So cash will be there and it's important. But in terms of what team success is going to come along with an expensive roster, if you go and shell out a bunch of money for a 5-star, his main motive for being in your college town and being with the team you support is strictly money. When you find these gritty 3-stars, those are the kind of guys, like the Indiana players, who are going to bring you to national championships, who are going to rally a coaching staff, who are going to get a fan base under you guys.
Nick wraps that up, but I have a question for you, Nick. You mentioned that teams have other factors to pull in players, but to what extent does that work? When does it get to the point where it doesn't really matter anymore and the financial reasoning trumps all? We saw that recently with Lane Kiffin taking that job at LSU, where clearly culture was not the defining factor for him.
In terms of the Lane Kiffin news, you see this kind of thing with Trinidad Chambliss as well. They get their new head coach, they have that same roster, but yet they fall short to Miami. So it's kind of one of these deals where is the culture going to be affected by your big spending, and by the time you bring in all these new players just because you got this big money rich thing, or are you going to bring in these guys that have a lot of heart, it's over the hype, and you're going to completely have a roster that's locked in with a bunch of brothers that are going to unite in terms of guys who are just there to cash a check?
Awesome take, Nick. But we now move on to the dilemma round. Kevin, you're up. 10 seconds.
Unfortunately, cream is all that matters. We just seen Jordan Seaton leave Colorado and ask for the highest bidder. College football is now a money shoot, and who's got the money to win right now?
Those were Kevin's thoughts. Nick?
We see college football is a money stream, and that's very evident, but it's really about what you're willing to give on the field. Someone who's only there to cash a check isn't there for the right reasons and won't make your team win.
Thumbs up for Kevin. Thumbs down for Nick. Go. The votes are in, and the jury says that Nick won the argument as they all put their thumbs down. And I have to agree with them. I think that we are currently being proven that money does not buy success necessarily. And this Indiana team, which currently has a few 4 stars and a bunch of high-rated 3 stars, is about to go up against a Miami team with a bunch of 5 stars, a bunch of 4 stars, and a bunch of 3 stars, and that they bought their way to their roster success. This has proven that coaching and culture still equals success in the NCAA. For how much longer, we don't know, but I'm personally hoping that this stays, as I'm more of a culture guy myself, and I'm not the biggest fan of NIL.
You know, respectfully, everybody wants to bring up stars. Nowadays, I don't think stars mean shit. You've got a Fernando Mendoza who's got the Heisman right now, and he played absolutely fantastic this year. You've got guys that were ranked poorly out of high school coming out and showing out after they've had time to develop at lesser programs and learn the system by playing worse teams. Stars don't mean anything. So if they're looking to pay them based on just their star rating, I think that's a huge mistake. I think you should look more at the player himself instead of the price tag that's on them. It could really be a game changer.
You say that, but from like Tennessee's own number, they spent $5 million between Brandon Faison and Tristan Keys. Like, the stars obviously still matter to a decent extent. Like, I listen, I agree with like almost both sides of the point. I think spending money, how you spend money, is the most important part, right? Like, who you're spending on. Offensive line. Look at Indiana's spending. You know, almost 25% of their total spending is their 5 offensive linemen. Pat Coogan cost them $1 million. Great fucking buy. But I think that buying 5 stars is a way of the past, right? It's not who has him this year, it's who has him in 3 years, right? Look at Ohio State. Ohio State paid Quincy Porter $850,000 to ride the bench this year as wide receiver 7 on their team. They paid Bryson Rogers $350,000 to be wide receiver 8 on their team, right? I think just buying the players out of high school is just a fool's errand, right? You're just paying another man's check at this point in time. Might as well write the school down the road who's going to get him for their sophomore year. Unless you can have them instantly play and re-sign them mid-season, I think how you buy instead of how much you buy is the new way of the game.
Claim number 4 is the Miami Hurricanes will be the national championship winners at Hard Rock Stadium in 2026. If you agree with this claim, you think Miami's taking that chip at home field advantage, and it does matter. If you disagree, you think the Indiana momentum behind Curt Cignetti is just too much for the Canes. 10 seconds, gentlemen. Go. Time. The panel has voted. We have Dalton, who agrees with the claim, going up against Kendall, who disagrees with the claim. Dalton, go.
Here you've got a Miami team that is a top 5 defense whenever it comes to the run. It's also a top 20 defense whenever it comes to passing defense. Both teams have comparable defenses and comparable offenses. I think it's all going to come down to Fernando being a hometown kid facing the team that he used to root for whenever he was growing up. He's going to get shook, and I don't think he's ready for that. I think going into Hard Rock, the Canes are going to come out on top, and you're going to see Michael Irvin throwing Belt again.
Time. That was Dalton's take. Kendall, you're up.
I'm going to give Indiana credit here. This is a great team. They play great complementary football on both sides of the football. Offense looks great. Defense looks great. It honestly looks like that they don't have many flaws when it comes down to their team. And being an Ohio State fan, that Big Ten championship loss sucked. Don't get me wrong. But when Mendoza got shook on that first play, he bounced back, put the team on his back, and won the game. And they've dominated throughout the playoffs. I think they're going to ride this momentum and win and get their first national title.
Kendall gives his claim, but I'm going to ask you a question here, Kendall. So you mentioned that Indiana has had momentum going into this, and Fernando has been able to bounce back off of shaky drives. But given the narrative here that Dalton brought up, hometown kid going against his hometown team he used to root for, do you think the pressure will amount to be too much for the projected number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NFL draft?
I'm going to give Indiana credit here. This is a great team. They play great complementary football on both sides of the football. Offense looks great. Defense looks great. It honestly looks like that they don't have many flaws when it comes down to their team. And being an Ohio State fan, that Big Ten championship loss sucked. Don't get me wrong, but when Mendoza got shook on that first play, he bounced back, put the team on his back, and won the game. And they've dominated throughout the playoffs. I think they're going to ride this momentum and win and get their first national title.
Interesting take, Kendall. Dalton, you have 10 seconds. Dilemma round, go.
Barring games that Carson Beck threw away himself, Miami's looked like a really great team with a top 5 pick in Reuben Bain Jr. Miami will win.
Dalton went. Kendall, you're up.
Indiana's put up 90 points through the 2 games that they've played in the playoffs, and I think that will carry into the national championship. They've dominated all year, and I think they're going to dominate on Monday night.
The dilemma round has concluded. We now turn to our other 3 who did not debate to see what they think. Gentlemen, thumbs up if you agreed with Dalton. Thumbs down if you disagreed with Kendall. 10 seconds, go. Time. It's a very tough argument, but I'm going to have to overturn this one and give it to my guy, Kendall. Dalton, you make great points. And while I do think Miami has a lot of leverage being at home for this matchup, Curt Cignetti has looked unstoppable against better teams in the college football realm. I think that he's just way too hot this year, and I think that the Indiana Hoosiers are your champions for this year. Kendall, you get the point.
I mean, you can't discredit Carson Beck coming into this. Everybody wants to talk about how great Fernando Mendoza is, and he's a hometown kid. It's a great story. Everybody forgets about the kind of pressure that Carson Beck's got riding on him. Carson Beck was a great player at Georgia, Heisman hopeful, amazing. Falls madly in love with one of the Cavanagh twins, moves to Miami. She dumps him, publicly slanders his name everywhere. Carson Beck has nothing to lose and all to win. This is going to be Carson Beck's make or break moment in his career, and I think he's going to live up to it. And he's finally going to make everyone realize that he's not as bad as he was portrayed in the media.
Carson Beck is one leaked dick pic on Snapchat away from tanking his draft stock, and at this point, I think the dude is a talented quarterback, but his personality clash and his decision-making off the field might hinder his success moving forward.
We're all one leaked dick pic away from being fired.
His conversation took a turn, huh?
Let's be real here.
All I'm saying is Mendoza would never. Mendoza would delete him.
That is another thing. Mendoza has great character.
Mendoza's voice sounds like he has the testosterone of a 12-year-old girl. I mean, I can't root for somebody that whenever he gets on a press conference and has more when Fernando has more voice cracks in one press conference than I had all throughout puberty. Yeah, I can't root for the guy.
Hey, he's got more voice cracks than Beck has Heisman's. That's all I got to say.
The final claim for the episode is that the 4-team playoff is superior to the 12-team playoff format. If you agree, you're saying that less is more. If you disagree, you think that the new format is more fair to other teams and gives more entertainment towards the playoff. Voters, you have 10 seconds starting now. The voters have given their vote, and we have Dalton, who agrees with the claim, going up against Kevin, who disagrees with the claim. Dalton, you have 30 seconds. Go.
The 14 playoff, I don't think I ever watched a super boring game during that 14 playoff. Yeah, there were some blowouts, but look at the last 2 years with the 12-team playoffs. You've had a group of 5 teams that have got blown out, and they're just boring games to watch. And I know with the 14 playoff, it's, well, if we got a chance, if we got that. If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to playing better football and being one of those top 4 teams that gets selected.
Dalton gave his thoughts. Kevin, you're up.
Hey, listen, if we don't have a 12-team playoff, we don't have Michael Irvin beating belt to ass. We don't have winner Dad Chambers coming out and letting America know how he can play football. We don't have all these great stories if we don't have 4 teams. So while, yes, a 14 playoff might have undefeated teams, the great stories and what makes us all college football fans is that 12-team playoff. Getting able to see guys and teams come to the occasion at the biggest moment of the year.
What was it again? What did you say about your aunt and your uncle?
I said if my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle. I mean, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas, but that's not how it goes.
That was Kevin's take. But Dalton, you said if your aunt had balls, she would beat your uncle. You also said if the 4-team playoff was still in, we wouldn't get all these group of 5 matchups and we would get better football. But then let me ask you this question here. If the 4-team playoff was still in play, what do you think the fairness dictator would be for that? Because in the 4-team playoff, we had teams constantly missing the playoffs who arguably should have been in. And it was a lot closer than what this 12-team playoff format has shown us.
You can't discredit those teams that barely missed the playoffs. But you're going to raise it up to 16 because you have teams that were right outside the 12-team playoffs. You can't keep on letting people get close and close and close and then just expanding it every time somebody fusses about it. It's not a participation trophy. It's strictly the best teams that make the playoffs.
Interesting take there. We now have the dilemma round starting first with Kevin. Go.
If we had a 14 playoff, we don't get the vast opportunities to see who else can be great. We've seen that now in the 12-team playoff, and I'm excited for it.
Kevin has spoken. Let's hear what you got to say, Dalton.
You want to bring up stories? Look at Max Duggan leading the TCU Horned Frogs to the national championship and getting blown out. You still get good stories, but they got to be in the best 4.
The dilemma round has concluded for both sides. We turn to the voters to see the results. 10 seconds, gentlemen. Go. Time. The jury has spoken and everyone agreed with Kevin's take, as do I. While the 14 playoff did introduce some cool stories like TCU and Cincinnati that one year, the 12-team playoff I think was better for the game of college football as it gives more teams the opportunity to show out on the stage. I think Kevin had a great point bringing up Miami as they had no chance of getting in under a 14 playoff, and they've been putting belt to ass to teams like Ohio State in this 12-team format. I love it going forward, and I think it's only better for the sport.
I think NIL doesn't make sense without a 12-team playoff, right? Like if Texas Tech, you think Texas Tech is buying in and spending $100 million over the next 3 years if there's no 12-team playoff, right? Like they're in a 4-team playoff, their top chance of maybe getting the 3rd seed at best. In a 12-team playoff, you got an extra 9 slots to get in. NIL only makes sense if there are more spots available in the playoff.
The final round has concluded, and with that, we have our final results. In 3rd place, we have Dalton, who has no points at all. Then a 3-way tie in 2nd. We have Kendall, Nick, and Caleb, who have 1 point. And the winner of this episode of Dilemma is my guy, Kevin, scoring 2 points. That's Dilemma. If you disagreed with the verdict, good. The claims did their job. Like, subscribe, and tell us which take you agreed with the most. I'm Jacob Janel, and we'll see you next time.